2-year-olds coming right up, so let's get right into the action. Our first 2-year-old race of the year matches fillies. We always start them at 4.5 furlongs, so they have a little bit of a look of an 870 quarter horse race, but not quite. And this is an interesting one because, it looks like there's lots of speed in here based on some of the workouts, but, Broberg seems to have a strong hand in this one.
Yeah, and early in the year for 2-year-olds, typically the quicker ones start early because you got to make money with these 2-year-olds, and the distances are very short. So generally the precocious 2-year-olds get an early start. If you bred something that's going to want to go 1 1/8 miles, you tend to start them in the fall and ease your way into it. So these probably are very quick. There's reasons to like the one Golden Cole. The reason I made him 9-5. First of all, this race, the turn comes up very fast. So the inside post is good. He was the most expensive 2-year-old in the lot. He gets the leading rider in the irons. He worked in company with Fast Medicine, but Broberg went with his go-to rider on the inside horse. So all those variables, other than me not seeing that 46-1 gate work, as it was on a day I was not clocking, but everything else seems to point the direction of Golden Cole.
Yeah, a couple of notes about Golden Cole because I don't see them in the morning. I do research the breeding. Vegemin, the dam of Golden Cole, was 1 for 5 in a brief career, but did win her debut. I kind of like to see that if a half or full sibling or the mother won right off the bat. This is the second foal from Vegemin. The first foal, a horse named Hassan, has not raced. Another note, Fast Medicine, the 3, has a full sister who won at First Asking and made $219,000. And First Medicine does have a couple of half-siblings that made 6 figures. So that family seems to be pretty good. Correct Call herself, the dam of Fast Medicine, was a stakes winner. Now, it was at River Downs, which is now Belterra. Not a major circuit, but still, Correct Call was 3 for 6. So a couple of breeding notes about that. You mentioned, another thing that a lot of horses take money that were in the 2-year-old in training sale here back in April, and this horse, Golden Cole, did bring $40,000.
Yeah, and I also want to mention, since it's a 2-year-old race, Steve Asmussen has the 4 Tensis Bolt and Brett Calhoun has the 5 Blingster. No 2 trainers win more baby races than Calhoun and Asmussen. So you'd be really remiss not to give them a long look. And if they are taking more money than like the line reflects, I would assume they're very live.
Yeah. It's interesting that Steve has an $1,800 Ruidoso New Mexico bred sale purchase in his barn with Souped Up Wildcat. They ducked in and bought a New Mexico bred for $1,800 in the same shed row with all the great Asmussens. You never know. You never know what. John Henry was a pretty cheap yearling at one time himself.
Yeah, he sold multiple times if I remember right.
Yeah, he did. Second race. These are Texas-bred maiden claimers. We've seen these before, many of them. We haven't seen Thrill of Hope, who will race on Lasix today. Technically first-time Lasix, but he's also a first-time starter. They're going 5.5 furlongs.
Yeah, it looks like the one again, Rusty Gadget, deserves favoritism in my mind. He was 4-5 last time out here at Lone Star Park, April 27th. Dueled for the lead. Faltered late. That race was 7 furlongs. That's a key factor in here. Today, cutting all the way back to 5 1/2 furlongs. Secondly, that was an open $10,000 maiden claimer. This race is restricted for horses bred in Texas. So this is a significant drop, a cut back in distance. 3 starts back at Houston, earned a 55 buyer. That's 8 points above par for the level. So 3.5 lengths faster than par. No one else in this field's been able to run a figure like that. So I think Rusty Gadget for Danny Pitch is the one to beat. No cinch, but clearly the one to beat.
Yeah, I think I took him too, and I tend to not like horses at this level who are favored. A lot of times, sometimes they do win, but I usually try to look to beat him. I couldn't beat him here. He ran really pretty well to the upper stretch in that race, and that was 7/8 of a mile. He loses a quarter of a mile here today and only has to go 5/8. I think that'll help. And, he really ran pretty well to the upper stretch last time. And one note about Willie's Posse, the second choice and both of our second picks, Willie's Posse chased a really pretty impressive winner for this level, Rumor Starter, who was Christopher Elliott's first win. Rumor Starter, I thought, for this level, ran a really nice race in that race where Christopher Elliott broke his maiden as a jockey, and this horse ran a nice second in that race. So he could come back and run okay. Willie's Posse might be tough at this level.
Yep.
On to the third. We've got a video to show here. I'm going to pick a little bit of an outsider, not huge, but Prince Lancelot. We're going to watch Prince Lancelot's last race from April 19th. Now, he's in the circle there. He was laying fifth around the turn, but now we're coming into the stretch. Don't Ask, Don't Tell is going to win this race. Let's go ahead and roll it. Don't Ask, Don't Tell is going to the lead right here, and Prince Lancelot is the 8-horse coming up into second right here. Don't Ask, Don't Tell is kind of a freak of nature. I mean, he's not the greatest horse to ever look through a bridle, but he is great on this turf course. And that horse that ran second on the outside, Prince Lancelot, was laying fifth, made a nice little rally, gained, about 4 lengths during the running of the race. Looked like he was still interested at the end. I'm going to give him a shot. Atris, who is and this is a 5/8 sprint, optional claimer, 30,000 or non-winners of 2 other than. Atris has been one of my favorite horses, and I don't know how he runs fresh. That's the only question for him. But Atris loves this turf course. Is a very logical pick. Just because he's been off since November, I'm going to take a shot with Prince Lancelot, who in Southern California ran some races that could compete here. I know you're on Atris. It was hard for me not to pick him, but I thought Prince Lancelot's last race, was reasonably good enough.
It was.
So we'll see. Now, the Prince is shortening up to 5/8. And
Andy Serling would not like that pick.
Why is that?
He's big into 5/8. You got to be a turf specialist.
Yeah, and normally I am too. But Prince Lancelot has shown out in Southern California that
he can.
He's run some good sprints.
Yeah, I think he's a contender myself. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, no, I love bringing up Andy Serling. I'd love to have Andy on the show. I'd like to meet him.
It'd be fun.
Atris last year just got awesomely good.
Yeah, my thoughts were he started the meet last year with 2 very impressive turf sprint wins right here at Lone Star Park after running a couple 5/8 main track sprints, which is what I think he was doing at Oaklawn. He had 3 bullet workouts at Oaklawn before he entered this race. So to me, those are pretty equivalent to those dirt races before.
Yeah.
He entered the Grand Prairie Turf Sprint, finished third, beating only 1 length behind Cogburn. It's more timely now since last weekend Cogburn won the Grade 2 turf sprint at Churchill on the undercard of the Derby Day.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea how great Cogburn is. So finishing 1 length behind Cogburn, I know sometimes it's hard to say that's exactly what Atris is today at this moment, but I love the fact Cabrera was aboard for his turf sprint wins last year. He's back aboard today. I know if he runs his race, he's going to win.
Yeah.
But picking against a horse that hasn't run since November is sometimes a wise strategy.
That's the only thing I think that will really trip him up. It's not like he's ancient. He's only 5 years old. He did get very good, loves this turf course, got very good last year. I mean, he was running for $8,000 beaten claiming at Oaklawn.
I know. Why didn't we claim him?
Yeah.
I guess we didn't have $8,000 between the two of us.
Between the two of us. A month or two later, he's running against Cogburn and running competitively here.
Unreal.
So good development for Michael Hewitt.
Yep.
I'm gonna take a shot. Prince Lancelot, though, it's interesting. He's 5 for 26 on the turf, but he has not won in the States. All of his wins came overseas. Jackman's Ride's another one who's super, super fast. I think Andy would like him because he is a speed-burning 5A sprinter. So Jackman's Ride is one that, if he's feeling it today, he could be tough even for Atris.
I agree.
Race 4. 7/8 of a mile. Man, we had a filly yesterday win. I think it was a filly that went 6 for 6 in her career at 7 furlongs. That Carrie Craddock horse.
Yeah.
I mean, that's maybe an anomaly, but it's a specialty distance for sure. Scratch the 5, Catholic Sioux. These are non-winners of 2, claiming fillies, going 7/8 of a mile. I kind of saw this as a 2-filly race between the 4 and the 6, and we ended up on the same 2 in the same order.
Yeah, I mean, pace makes the race. I didn't see anyone who could run with the 4, Mischief Angel. I mean, I had this horse originally 8-5, and then when I broke down the pace of the race, I thought, oh, man, no one's going to run with this filly. She was claimed by a really good horseman in Scott Young, who's winning at a very high rate right now. Ran really well against a much better field, going 7/8 at Houston. Ran a mile last time out. It should have got really legged up for that one. Was caught inside the final furlong. Was 4 1/2 lengths back to the third place finisher. So she exits a really strong 2-turn race. Now back at what is probably her best distance. And I just think she's going to make an easy lead, and therefore I'll have to take 6-5, 8-5, whatever she winds up.
And Art Queen, excuse me, our second pick is a 3-year-old filly coming back very fast. She raced on May 3rd a week ago last night, and Hot Springs drew off and kind of obliterated a maiden field. I went back and watched that race. She was 7-1. It wasn't the prettiest thing finishing through the stretch. She was on her inside lead. Never change leads, which, there's different schools of thought on that. And I'm not a horseman, but it's kind of unsightly when they don't change to their outside lead. They never look like they're finishing as well. And she blew that field away, but late in the Oaklawn meet, the quality and depth of the fields there is not as good as it is earlier in the meet.
True.
I'm not saying there's ever a cheap win in Hot Springs, but closing weekend might be the closest you come to a weak maiden claiming field. So, I mean, Broberg has a way of whipping them back, and he and Harry Hernandez are hot. But I still think the older Mischief Angel, to me, is clearly the one to beat.
Yeah, and I think our Queen's maybe more consistent than people think if they just glance. The start 2 back, they just experimented with blinkers off, and, she ran a terrible race.
Yeah.
But every other race in blinkers, she's been very consistent. It's just, is she good enough to beat someone like Mischief Angel, who's going to have a 6-length lead on her turning for home?
Yeah.
And, I wouldn't bet on that happening.
I used Miracle Shoes third just to throw a long shot out there. I think she might like 7 furlongs. She turns back from a mile race in Hot Springs where she was 21 lengths back at the first point of golf. Unless you just stand there at the start, it's hard to be that far back a quarter mile into a race. Wound up being 7th, beaten 9 lengths. But some of her other sprints at Hot Springs were not too bad. She's an Arkansas bred. I don't think she can threaten the top 2 necessarily, but I figured I'd throw her in there. 5th race. Mile on Grass. 3-year-old fillies. They can be in for $50,000, which some of them are, or they can be a non-winner of 2 life. Scratch the 7, Kentucky Angel.
Yeah, Steve Asmussen saddles the 8 Contour, who's been very good in 3 turf races. First one was an entry-level allowance at Houston, just narrowly gets beat, wheels back at a similar condition as today, non-winners a 2 lifetime allowance, and wins that race. Then shows up here at Lone Star Park in a 2 other than. This is a 2 lifetime, so it may, because the claiming price is lower than that last race, the purse is lower for this one, meaning it's a lower allowance condition. So after beating the neck by a Sean Davis trainee last time, takes what I would say is a small drop in class. If she can duplicate that last race, and she's a 3-year-old, it looks like she is getting better with every start. I think she's the one to beat. There are options in here. I'll just throw out a long shot that you probably won't mention, but maybe you will. The 3, Say Cheese Louise, who had sprinter speed in her career debut and a nice win at Houston, is bred, at least on the top side, to love turf racing. Should love a route of ground, too. And I just have a lot of confidence in this trainer to have her fit enough to maybe go this far.
I'm just realizing I never looked at it before, but, Emma Lazarus wrote the poem, Give Me Your Poor, Your Tired, Your Huddled Masses. Well, the dam of Say Cheese Louise is Emma Lazarus, and her sire is Point of Entry, which makes sense, kind of an Ellis Island thing. I'm just noticing that. That's pretty creative. Contour last time. Actually, I'm not bragging. Well, I guess I am, but I picked viewer's discretion. And I thought last time she ran a really nice race to beat Contour. It was only a neck at the end.
Right.
And so Contour and has come back and had a little half-mile kind of maintenance breeze since then, which is not uncommon for Steve. And Contour does seem to really like the turf, even though there's really nothing in her pedigree racing-wise from Untapped or Copper Bullet, neither of whom ever stepped on the turf. Except when they were out in the field somewhere, and yet Contour does look like she likes the turf. I went with Quick Track as a second pick. I think she's eligible to improve. She's a Calhoun. She was in that race actually, she wasn't in the race with Contour last time. She was against Contour in March, a few races back for Contour, and ran semi-competitively. She was a pretty good 2-year-old last year. I mean, good enough that she went in the trapeze and huge long shot and got dusted. But I think maybe Quick Track could improve a little bit here.
Her 2 races on turf are very competitive. The Beyers are a little light, but
yes.
But that March 3rd number looks light on her, and it looks light on Contour, considering how they ran since then. So I don't know.
Yeah, maybe put your Beyer question mark next.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Race 6. It starts to pick 4. The 5th race starts to pick 5 here today. Race 6, all older. $5,000 filly claimers. There's no conditions on this, which is fun to see. Just a straight old claimer. Scratch the 7, Freezer Burn. 5/8 of a mile, so a short one here.
Yeah, short one. The 5 Conflicting Tales loves Lone Star Park. I mean, that's great since she's shipping up from Houston last year. She breaks her maiden in a maiden special weight, sprinting 7/8, and then wins easily clears at 9 winners of 2 for 25, winning at 6 1/2. Has been competing at a much higher level at Houston, showing good speed. Now drops in for a $5,000 claiming price. It looks to me like she'll make the lead. If not an easy lead, at least she'll make the lead. And at this abbreviated distance, with her liking of this Lone Star surface, I think she's going to be tough to handle for Scott Young, who we mentioned already is having a great meet.
Yeah. We're on a lot of the same top picks today. Not entirely, and we're both on this filly. To me, it's just come and catch her. Carpe Horseshoe scares me a little. I picked her last time off the layoff. At the time, I thought I was really disappointed. I just thought I'd get a little better effort out of her. But really, it was a sloppy track. It was 6 furlongs. It was a comeback race. And she was right up in it, just kind of wilted the last 3/16 of a mile. She could come back a lot better. I mean, she likes these short sprints. I don't know. I couldn't use her more than second just because I was kind of frustrated by her effort last time. But sometimes you got to give horses a break coming off a layoff since the first of the year. So
it is a significant drop in class. That's why I thought she might take more money than Conflicting Tales. If they just look at the races in Louisiana, those Beyers really stand out.
Yeah, they do.
And Broberg, if Broberg likes his horse, they go favored. So
man, they had one yesterday that went like 1-5, I think.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm hoping they bet Carls and Scott Young can win the race for selfish reasons
we'll
only.
See. Yeah, exactly. And then we got a Fawner horse in here, Juilliard Honor, who shows lines at Fawner, Delta, and Arapahoe, which is a strange threesome of tracks to combine.
Yep.
But 2 bull rings and Arapahoe. But Juilliard Honor likes to cash checks.
She does, and when she finished behind Carpe Horseshoe, that was a 2-turn race. No relevance at all to this race. So
exactly.
I think Juilliard Honor, I made the horse, or her 3-1, 7 years old.
Oh, yeah, you picked her second, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I like her.
It'll be interesting to see how she runs. I'm always interested to see how the Fawner horses, because we do get some here.
Yeah.
Henry Witt sends some horses up there every year, and it's interesting to see how they fare.
If Katulak's still up there.
Yeah,
he
runs the place.
That's what I thought. Yeah. I know he was as of a couple years ago.
Katulak runs the joint.
Awesome.
That is great for an announcer to get out of the booth and run something. That's pretty good.
No kidding.
On to race 7. $20,000 claimers here. These are all older runners. 1 1/16 on the turf. This is a good race. Scratch the 3, Buy Me Candy. Scratch the 10, who was a mare in here, Gigi. will not run.
Yeah, the turf form of Ted looks really consistently good from Turf Paradise, Remington Park, even a couple earlier in his career at Santa Anita. He really likes turf. He really likes two turns. Last time out, draw a line through that race. Witz Taquito did beat him, but that was in a washed off the turf dirt race, much better on grass. Like that he has good early speed also on turf. This turf course, generally plays pretty fair, but it's usually, he comes off Turf Paradise. I can't, without knowing, I generalize it probably favors turf, but I have no idea. You always figure a track like Arizona, it's going to be pretty speed favoring.
One would think.
Yeah, one would think, but
I
could be wrong.
On turf.
Yeah, I've never studied Turf Paradise.
No, I haven't either. I've only studied to see if it's. Well, I won't even say that. I was going to make a joke about their stability, but we shouldn't do that.
And that I just going to add, the leading riders above Ted and Cappellucci, he's off to a somewhat sluggish start, but he's a high percentage trainer, and he is one of the barns I've noticed clocking in the mornings. His whole barn seems to be training really well. So I'm expecting him to bust out, in a big way soon. If not, maybe today will be the day.
I have a lot of respect for Ted. Any race where you name a horse 3-1 on the line, I feel like I have a little bit of a license to maybe venture off, pick a long shot, because unlike some line makers who try to hedge themselves by making every horse 5-2 or 3-1, you do it the way you should. So when you see a 3-1 on your line, it's a legitimately wide open race. Ted is definitely the one that I fear. You combine his dirt and synthetic records, he's 1 for 12. You look at his turf record, and it's pretty good for a horse at this level. I'm going to take a shot with a 12-1 shot on the morning line in More Victory, number 6. Stuart Elliott gets aboard. This horse stretches out from a late March turf sprint, a two-other-than allowance with Available Star and Agent Peter Graves and Todd Sherrow. That seems like a better bunch than this. More Victory definitely likes the turf, definitely likes these longer races, has a win over this course. I'm kind of relying on two races, the Remington race last, when was it, October, and then the race here on the 3rd of July. The rest of his form's a little up and down, but he has looks like a nice half-mile work on the slop on May 5th. Jade Gellner is due to heat up a little bit as well. I just think he might get a trip, so I'm going to try More Victory.
As you're talking about him, I noticed that big 80 buyer allowance win, Stuart Elliott. It's the only time he rode the horse. Now he's back aboard today, and I really feel like owners and trainers, they're aware of that sometimes. Horse runs a big race for a certain rider. They go back to a rider they use more frequently. The horse goes, runs decently. And they're thinking, hey, let's put Stuart back. This horse responds to Stuart Elliott, so he's back aboard. So you may be onto something.
Especially when Stuart has been riding Good Swimmer for Mindy Willis, and Good Swimmer, I didn't care much for his race on April 7th at Houston, but he came back and ran a terrific race last time, sitting just off the pace. And yet Stuart, who rides a lot for Mindy, is riding More Victory. Don't know what's up there, but
that's a good point.
It's not the reason I would pick a horse just because Stewart gets off somebody else, but it's something to note. Race 8. We're back on the same horse in this one, Bandera Azteca. First level allowance here at 6 furlongs.
Yeah, this horse has ran really well at Oaklawn Park. I mean, last start at the end of April was a second, had 2 wins and other second-place finishes. The only dull performance was that 2-turn race, so consistently good. The buyer figures look best in this bunch. And one thing that is interesting to me is his races at Oaklawn Park, where he was running so well, was his odds. This horse, Bandera Azteca was 8-1 and run second, 8-1 and wins, 8-1 run second, 6-1 wins. My point is, on paper, he wasn't supposed to win those races. So that tells you the fields were really strong for that class level, or he would have been, 2-1, 5-2. So he was beating up or being very competitive with quality horses up there in Hot Springs. And an entry-level allowance race here at Lone Star Park, based on the numbers he was earning in Hot Springs, He should be able to win this race if he just takes to our surface, because he's never had a race here at Lone Star. That's the only thing that might trick him up if for some reason he just doesn't care for the surface here.
And one thing I really like about this track is I can't really ever think of looking at a horse and saying he didn't like the surface here.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen horses that don't care for Oaklawn. We've seen them that don't care for Delta for whatever reason. They have a unique sandy surface at Delta being down by the Gulf. Here, though, I don't ever recall really seeing a horse. We've seen horses that love the surface.
Yeah.
But I think that's one thing that's good about this track is horses seem to like it. You know, I looked up that race where he was grabbed, he lunged, and the assistant starter had no choice just for self-preservation but to grab him, and he was declared a non-starter April 19th. He was 6-1 in that race.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he shows no odds because after the race he was scratched, the money was refunded. So he was 6-1 in that $35,000 claimer, and that was in a meatier part of the Oaklawn meet, you know, pre-Apple Blossom and whatnot, when the racing is a little bit stronger there than it is at the very end. And so, yeah, he ran well in the meaty part of the Oaklawn meet.
Yep.
And I think he's going to be tough to beat here. Another Oaklawn shipper, Summer in Malibu, is one that I always kind of keep an eye out for because I saw him several times last year in Hot
Yeah, and he's first-time Diodoro, which is always a good
sit
thing
up and
there.
Take notice on that.
Yes.
Ninth and final. We've got a building high five carryover of $9,243. Two Caldwells are prominent in this one, although I'm going against that grain. $9,243 to carry over in the high five, Texas bred, bottom level maiden fillies.
Yeah, this was beyond difficult here. I mean, I couldn't believe
it. Outsiders of a sort.
Yeah, I went with the one Western Sky. The biggest class drop in racing. You know, maiden special weights. Usually just into a maiden claimer. This is into the bottom maiden claimer and add state bred to that. So this is a humongous drop in class. Broke okay, not real alert. Ran okay, ran around there. I just figure now they're adding blinkers. The workouts up to that debut to me look pretty good for this level. Stretching out. The big class drop, the blinkers on, just having that racing experience. I did not want to pick the favorites in here. Just because, like you said earlier, at this level, they're usually not very consistent.
No.
Sarah P., I thought, was the one to beat off a second-place finish, but that was at 5/8 of a mile. I'm assuming that's why you thought she was vulnerable, too. She had a decent workout that I clocked, but still, I don't know that she really wants to go 5/8 of a mile. And she's a 6-year-old with only 3 career races.
That was another thing.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons to think the favorites in here may not run well. So I went ahead and I had to take a shot. So I went with the one Western Sky.
Yeah, I went with Thread of Gold. I'll talk about her in a moment. But, yeah, Sarah P., she was okay last time. I mean, Cream Puff Reaper ran a nice race on April 19th for the level. This filly ran okay. She was a little bit clear of High Caliber Catch, who is the second choice in the wagering. I didn't see enough out of either one of them to say, hey, I want to pick them when they come back. Sarah P. has come back and worked around the dogs. The D is the cones that were put out on the sloppy track to keep horses off the inside. Sarah P. might win, but she's not the reliable kind I'm going to pick. High Caliber Catches had not a lot of chances, and they bet her hard last time on the drop, and ran third.
Yeah, the drop, and they were thinking 5/8 of a mile dropping down. They bet her to even money. Didn't break that well. I don't think they, purposely took her back, but she still didn't finish that well.
No.
I mean, she lost ground from the 8th pole to the wire. I don't think she wants to go 7/8 any more than Sarah P. does. So I thought Western Sky might plod along and accidentally find herself in the lead at the 16th pole. I mean, like Thread of Gold. I mean, I think we have the same strategy. I highlighted that she broke last. Had a little trouble at the break.
Missed the break last
so, there's no Ronnie Craven started her at this level. That's a little concerning, right?
Yeah. And she was cold on the board. I picked her last time as a first-time starter in a race like this.
Yes.
And you made her 12-1. You nailed the line. She was cold on the board. She went off at 14-1. And kind of ran like it, but totally missed the break in a race with Sarah P. And
this is a perfect field to be one-paced, which I think Western Sky and Threat of Gold are two one-pace fillies based on one race.
Exactly.
But that's perfect at 7/8 of a mile when you got fillies that are quitter. I mean, they've been stopping.
Exactly.
That's all I can say.
And
they've been stopping.
The last thing I'll say about Threat of Gold is Red Thread, the dam, herself never raced, but she has been part of a very productive line that produced Cat's Second Silver, Cat's Infatuation, Shock Time, who produced Shockingly Famous, who was a graded stakes-winning quarter horse. But Shock Time has also produced, I think, Gold Shock, who was a Texas-bred stakes winner. So Red Thread is I believe she's might have been a Scarborough. I'm not sure of that.
Yeah.
Very productive mare, and as a producer, and so Threat of Gold. I mean, she might be one of those that doesn't run out of that family, but most of that family is run.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Second start, both of those 1 and 2 off the second start, both could improve.
Yep. Let's hope so.
And they don't have to improve a lot.
No, they really don't. The Buyer Par's 38.
Yeah.
And they ran a 30 with trouble.
Exactly.
So,
on debut.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, I think we figured that out.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck. It always makes so much sense when we're sitting down here, and then you get up there, and it's like, reality sets in.
Yeah, something we didn't mention will win the last race.
What's that?
I wish we didn't give us a call to will win the last race today.
That's possible.
It is possible, but probably not.
We'll see. All right, we'll do it all again tomorrow on Mother's Day. Meanwhile, today we've got Lone Star Bark. Thankfully, I don't have to handicap those dog races.
Yeah.
Imagine picking a dog that, the little ones especially, that make like a right turn and try to run back to, the person that sent them on their way. That'd be frustrating. All right. For Rick Lee, I'm Jim Byers. Thanks a lot for looking in. Good luck today.